What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. My name is Bludborn. Today we're going to be doing something a lot different than we normally do. We're going to be hanging out with Orion from the LOTRO dev team. We're going to be talking about basically anything and everything that has to do with PvMP for the uninitiated. That's PvP and Lord of the Rings Online. So, I want to start off with a couple ground rules before I bring Orion in. I know PvP and PvMP is a pretty hot topic in gaming in general. So I know there's a lot of opinions with it. I ask that anybody that is in chat that wants to ask questions or have comments, keep it civil. There is stuff that, is out of bounds, and I will ignore it if I need to. And we have mods in chat that will respond appropriately as well. So this is meant to be kind of a bridge between community and development, which is always a good thing. So let's treat it like that. And let's have a good time and learn some stuff. And maybe we'll find out some cool stuff that's coming. So let me bring Orion on here. You are on, sir.
Oh, crud.
Welcome back, sir. How we doing?
We are good. Prepping to go for another, what was it, almost 2.5 hours last time?
Yeah, it was a long it was a long one. Hope you got your coffee ready.
No coffee, just tea.
All right. Caffeine
That's
nonetheless. Yep. So yeah, for those of we've had a lot more people coming into the streams and stuff as of late that are newer to the game. So for people that might be watching or watch it later, give us a little brief rundown of who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Alan Mackey. I go by Orion on the forums, pretty much everywhere online when it comes to LOTRO. I started on the team ages ago as a senior content person, moved on up at that point to jump over the wall to systems. I've done pretty much every role you can imagine on the LOTRO team. I developed all the original instances, was part of the initial team that put together Monster Play. Took a 7-year hiatus after I got laid off during the WB days.
Yeah.
And I came back about, a little over 3 years ago now. And now I'm the lead designer on the game. So time has a way of really kind of putting things back into perspective and back into the fun. And it's been about 3 years since I got back, and we've got we've got a lot of really good stuff, I think, planned for the next 5 years at least. Solid plan for 5 years, yeah.
That's a little time there. All right, that's a little further out than I would have anticipated. But we're here today to talk about something near and dear to your heart, PvMP, Monster Play.
Yeah, my little malformed baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think we should start by what was the original thought process behind Monster Play? Just what was the design process for it?
The original design?
Yeah, hit me with it. We got to know where we came from.
So, way back in the day, so originally Monster Play was set up to be a coin-op experience. It's funny, right? So at the time, the biggest thing that had existed for like a Monster Play scenario was EverQuest had actually done something like this, where there were some zones in the game where you could take on the role of a spider and then harass players and chase them to the zone boundaries and kind of lock them out of a zone for a period of time. And that was kind of the thought behind the whole thing initially, was that we were going to be creating a coin-op experience utilizing a destiny point system that eventually went away, but was a major part of the whole Monster Player experience, to allow players to experience what it was like to be a monster for a short period of time. And we were going to be putting up warning signs all over the place, like, here, be smart monsters, be careful, and that kind of stuff. And I wanted none of that. I fought pretty hard against it, and I said, if we're going to do something like this, we should really take this as the opportunity that we have to turn it into our PvP, because we all know, like I came from Asheron's Calls, so we know that Darktide was one of our most consistently populated servers, most consistently populated servers. So I basically fought to say, if we're going to do this, we should turn this into, not like a true esports, but we should have it to be a more competitive experience where players don't just lose their characters after a period of time, where they can level up. And I got my way, for good or ill. We didn't know whether or not it was going to be super successful. We had to toe a very, very tight line when it came to the license, because the license basically said you can never have a hobbit stabbing a hobbit. You can never have a hobbit stabbing an elf. An elf will never go out of their way to hurt any of the free people. Dwarves are a little bit different, but that's more because they're dwarves. So we had to be very careful about this, and we had to, in the beginning, had to make sure that we were showing that the forces of Angmar, which we ended up drafting into our monster player experience, didn't really have wills of their own. And the whole idea behind it was, we knew that players were eventually going to become more powerful, so we needed to make it so that monsters were about equivalent when they were 4 to 6 on 1. So 4 to 6 monsters against 1 player. So we took a lot of, I don't want to say shortcuts, but we had already intended on putting in, we already had, because we built it out, a session play system, which basically enabled us to do things like our ranger play, our troll play, chicken runs, chicken play, all that stuff. So the session play already existed. So we basically just built upon the idea of session play and made our monster players into a more stable session player that had a very limited inventory, had a very limited advancement scheme, so on and so forth. And we tested it. I think we built it in about 14 weeks total, right toward the end of the project. And, it worked. And I always say, like, it's my greatest success and probably my greatest failure too, because it was designed in such a flawed way that achieving true balance is going to be nigh impossible, because the monster players were never created with any of the depth that our regular characters have, and as a result, it's been a very long time getting to a point where the monster players have the capacity and the utility that our regular players have. And certainly over the years, with the addition of legendary items and then the revision of legendary items and all the other things that have gone into the game in that time, it's been, a problem of proliferation of strength and power between the two. And as we revise the classes across the game, there's been more and more difficulty, mostly because we've spent so much time recently on the tactical classes, specifically Lore Master and Minstrel.
Right. Yep.
And some of the Runekeeper, the changes that were made, it's just become really difficult. And the number one thing that players are always talking about on the Ettenmoors is lag, and we did make some pretty strong inroads with the pinning technology that we got last year. Tomorrow, we're hoping that another change that we're putting in is going to further reduce some of the latency that we see. And we really hope the 64-bit servers would do even more. But damn, there's a lot of people that are going onto those servers, and I think that's been one of the things that's kind of hamstrung us along the way. But from the PvMP standpoint, it's funny. It teaches us a lot, because it's an encapsulated area of the world that we don't often think of as being highly populated. Now, I mean, I like to play pretty often. I'm lambasted for not playing enough, for not knowing what's going on out there. But I play, but I'm incognito. I'm not going to go out there and play a character that's called Orion, because that would just get me whacked every 2 seconds. But I'm out there a lot, and the tendencies that players have, we have to find ways to break break the way that action has evolved, whatever the hell you want to call it. The way that the players play the game, moving from place to place in giant Zerg balls it's difficult, and these are conversations we have all the time, because it strains the servers when you've got 100 characters on screen, like when you've got two full kinships that are just fighting each other tooth and nail, and then another one rolls in, and then another one rolls in. It definitely devolves into a slideshow for a period. So we're trying to come up with ways to kind of spread the community out a little bit more. But I think what we found, certainly with the conversion, and I know I'm rambling, what we found with the conversion to the 64-bit servers is that Monster Play is a heck of a lot healthier, I think, than we gave it credit for. And it's before you would really only have two servers that were pretty significantly running on average, right? You have Arkenstone and you had Evernight, and those were the two servers that were considered the PvP servers. Well, now even like our smaller, not even smaller, but our roleplay server, right, of Peregrine, has a pretty active Monster Play community. So it's been interesting to see, how it has changed, how it is growing, how it is maintaining. And I mean, it's 18 years, and I think the most new quests we added was last year.
Yeah.
To the space, and the devotion that the people who play Monster Players have is really kind of remarkable and astounding. So it was a great success, and at the same time, because of the built-in imbalance, has really kind of made future-proofing and modernizing the experience kind of difficult.
Sure, and I think that always brings up a question you kind of touched on a little bit with balancing. That's going to be the number one ticket item, because you're going to get freeps that are saying creeps are overpowered, and creeps that are saying freeps are overpowered, and it's going to say skill issue, and then the whole thing. And so, as it stands today, what would you say what is your balance point for groups? Like, do you think it's what you were saying previously, like the 4-to-1, or is it 6v6? Is it, obviously raid versus raid is just a whole different animal, so where do you see that?
I think that there's no direct answer to that. There's no easy answer to that, I guess, was the right thing to say. There are classes that have been refurbished in a way that makes them more competent when they are solo. So you're right. No matter what happens, there's always going to be someone, or there's always going to be parties that will eventually say that one side has gotten much better than the other. When war leaders got their changes, there were some significant benefits that they got, and we saw that they started to thrive when they were in a healing stance. Same thing is true with the Defilers, right? So the problem is that when you run into a situation where you've got so many of a certain class that is very good at, say, maintaining their health at a point, or morale at a point where they pretty much can't go down. You've got the immovable object. Then you've got classes like Runekeeper, who right now are really spotty crit machines, but if you know what you're doing, you end up dropping, a 250,000 damage on a creep every once in a while, meaning once maybe every 10 to 14 seconds, depending on how fast your skill plays are and how much you're cutting and whatnot. So yeah, I think some of it comes down to, there are some really highly skilled players out there. There are also some players who are utilizing multi-boxes, which, God, I hate, but we never made it against our TOS, so that kind of hurts. But then there's also, just the fact that people run scripts that can automate a lot of the true skill action that we have kind of built into the game with our immediate skills. So what ends up happening is you do have a few classes that everybody migrates toward that are, I want to call them flavor of the month, because it's not really a flavor of the month to level up a player character up to being able to maintain what they need to be able to maintain at endgame. At the same time, like if you look at the number of lore masters, the number of minstrels, and the number of runekeepers that are out in the wild right now, it's pretty clear that the tactical classes are enjoying, at least on the player side, are enjoying quite the heyday. From the monster player side, you definitely have war leaders that are pretty powerful. You have the defilers who are pretty powerful. Spiders, probably because they're my pets, are still good, right? They're not top anymore. Wargs need a little help, and even war leaders need a little help on the damage front. But I think what the monster players are really missing at this point is that deeper utility that they need, and I think that's one of the things that we really want to tackle this year is to try to get that pushed out there in a manner that makes it more appealing to the monster player.
So this is kind of an addition to this. I'm actually going to read a comment that was on the Reddit post here. And it was in reference to our chat here. And the poster said, "I play on both sides, and I hope your questions will reflect the problems, in parentheses, sufferings, of the creep side as well. BAs, wargs, and DPS defilers are at a horrible place in terms of survivability. Defiler heal is mediocre at best. Quest NPCs, especially Bach and Gashen and Grotham, take ages to respawn. Brands are broken. They don't give slow immunity." It kind of goes on, but his point is kind of what you're referring to of the basically there's a lot of LMs, minstrels, and RKs running around right now, and I certainly see that. I certainly see a lot of lore masters and minstrels, and the problem that I see is probably incentivizing. It's difficult to incentivize players to play a certain way. Like minstrels are really high on damage right now, so you don't see a lot of them healing out there right now, and that's a difficult pill to swallow. Like I played a champion because I wanted to do DPS, not because I wanted to tank, and so that's why I play DPS. Not well, mind you, because I know there's some people out there that watch. They're like, but so something like that, is it going to take looking at the classes holistically, or as it pertains to PvP when you're looking at fixes or adjustments?
So we never make changes to the game based off of PvP alone.
Sure.
It doesn't make any sense. The game is not built around PvP. The PvMP portion is a very small aspect of the game. It's it's endgame niche, I think, is the right way to kind of call it. So when we shifted to free to play, a lot of the functionality that PvMP had kind of went away, because the Destiny system was that it was the impetus for you to go out and play both the monster player and the player. When we got rid of that, because we shifted to free to play, it made the whole experience a little bit lesser, in my opinion. Not everybody shares that opinion. Some people thought that Destiny was awful. Too bad I'm bringing it back in a different form. But it was there were reasons to go out and fight initially. There were even more back when we were in the early beta of it, because I had made it so that we had made it that the battle in the Ettenmoors actually had a direct influence on what was going on in Eriador at that time. But there was enough concern from a lot of the player base. It was like, I don't want the PvP mingling at all with anything that's going on in my PvE. So we cut that. We just got rid of it. honestly, it was really tough for me to swallow, because the whole idea was to mimic a lot of what Dark Age of Camelot had done, by giving some kind of a meaning to the battle that was happening out there. So I'm going really circuitous on this one, but I'm getting back to it, I swear.
Okay.
The looking at the classes and where they're at, we can't really make any massive changes to the player side of the fence. So we have to take some steps on the other side to make sure that we are fixing some of the issues that exist and giving some more benefits to the creep side. But there's always a fine line, and a lot of this comes down to the fact that because there's no cap on how many of a specific class can be out there at any given time, you end up with even more difficulty. Because, as that post or net had said, that the issue is that, yes, if you're not running healing right now, you're out there as a minstrel, you're just blowing through any of the creeps that are in their damage mode, because they have to go fairly glass cannon in order to be able to do that. So are there things that we want to do in the future? Yes, there were a couple of plans that on MM and I had talked about earlier, before we actually really got into the development for U45, which is our next update, where we had talked about putting something new in where we could upgrade your meaning the monster players' corruptions in a meaningful way. We kind of had to step back away from that for a couple of reasons. The early discussions with Palantir made us a little hesitant about going too deeply into it before we presented the entire idea to the player base. And there were enough things along the lines, there were enough pieces of it that we needed to prove would work before we could really implement a lot of the different changes that we wanted to make anyways. So we took a step back from that. And we ended up with what we've got right now for U45, which we can go into a little bit later.
Sure.
But ideally, what we're trying to do is find that happy medium, find ways that we can provide monster players the necessities to be able to survive for long enough, because right now I think survivability is an issue because of how many tactical classes are out there. There was a huge debate on our forums after I posted some of the changes that we had proposed and we're proposing for 45. Just around the very notion that we took away heal tagging, which, for anyone who's not familiar with what that was, is you throw a heal on somebody early in a fight, and then you'd recall back to Graham's Foot or wherever you were and get full credit for kills, and get your infamy and your glory and your commendations that way. And it was cheese. I mean, like, no matter how you look at it was cheesy. You were never really involved in the fights. You were never involved in any of the danger. Like, there was a total cheat, if you're asking me, like how you were leveling up, how you're advancing, and we eliminated it. We got rid of it. Turns out, recently we did another audit on the way that the calculations are done for earning glory, infamy, and commendations, and it turns out that there's a hidden value that has existed underneath everything all along that made all of the changes that we put in to try to mitigate how many points you were earning valueless. Like, that change didn't matter because...
Really?
Yeah, man. Like, it was one of the most... Like, it was like an eye-opening and horrible, and at the same time, like, why would they have done that kind of an experience where we... So, let's just say that you've got a file that basically controls how much of this particular experience is supposed to give you.
Yeah.
And you've got the value set to, like, what a kinship is. Right.
Okay.
What a small rate is supposed to be, or what a larger rate is supposed to be. Well, you would think that they would have bounded that, right, and said the bounding limit, the ceiling on where this number can go, is the maximum of an actual raid group. Nope. So what's happening, and we're working on the fix for this, is if you have 35 people involved in a fight,
Yeah.
all 35 tip the scale, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. You're all getting the full value again because it doesn't know how to calculate that.
Okay.
So it's like, well, damn. Like, and people say, how do you not catch that in testing? Well, because we don't have 70 people to throw against one another, and when we try to redo it internally, we can't.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, it's one of those things that we found, and we're like, yeah, we want to fix that, but it's just tough, like trying to figure out how to dig that out of the code and then make the adjustments that are necessary and then get it tested again.
That's gotta be a little defeating finding one like that. Just like, but knowing it's there now, that's
Yeah, we find them all the time though. Like, and it's not just in PvP, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, we find them everywhere, and it's really, I mean, it's because. It was the third game that Turbine made, but it was also a fourth game that Turbine made. But it was also like the first time we had kind of stepped into this particular version of an MMO. And you're not going to always make everything perfect the first time you do it. And it's funny, like we talk about this too, that the amount of tribal knowledge that has walked in, walked out, and boomeranged back, because there's a lot of boomerangers now. Into the company is pretty high, and when you lose a lot of that tribal knowledge, the secrets of the past really become like archaeology, where you're uncovering crap and you're like, oh, this is what was buried in the code. Well, that's probably not good. Just the other day, the engineer who's working on our kinship stuff was like, oh, I was going to call this new thing that I'm putting in for kinships this, but I can't because somebody started to build a container for that ages ago. There's nothing in it. There's no notes, but it's there. Somebody had this idea, 15, 16 years ago. It just never went anywhere. So we keep finding, we keep unearthing stuff. The deeper we go and the longer we run.
All right, then. Well, I think I was actually trying to find your post.
I can.
I thought I actually had it.
I mean, it's there. I know that. I've got it. It's Ettenmoors Outline 2025.
Yeah.
Looks like it's about 13 pages long right now.
Hey, look at Belle. Look at Belle. She goes so fast with that stuff. There we go. Okay, we're good.
14 pages now.
So there was a particular. Okay. So something that I know has a lot of interest, specifically from you. I've been kind of watching the iterations and things with it, but let's talk about Siege for a little bit.
Sure. You mean the thing that everybody hates?
What do you think? Why do you think that is? Or what are you reading that is suggesting that everybody hates it?
I mean, just read the posts. No, so it's funny. Some people hate it. I think a lot of it's going to be in the implementation. And look, if we put it out there next week and it sucks, we'll kill it. Like, that's kind of the point that I'm at with this. But
yeah,
the whole reason for it, and I know this is really hard for people to understand, is we have to find a way to break up the way that the action is happening in the Ettenmoors, because right now it all happens in that strip between Lugazag and Tirith Rhaw.
Yeah.
And it goes over the bridges of TA, and you all hang out there, and it's terrible and it's awful, and it makes me sad every time I see it. Even when you rotate out and you will go to either Ostrangdir or even Dargazag to try to capture the artifacts, it still invariably devolves into, we're going to run right through the center of the map. And it turns into just a slog where there's 100 on 100, and while it's gotten better, the servers are still not going to be able to handle 100 on 100 until we make some other adjustments that are just not in the cards right now.
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind it, and there's a lot of questions on why I want to do it this way or why we want to do it this way, is to try to space people out and to make things more beneficial to hold, harder to take, and easier to defend. At the same time, there's been a lot of discussion back and forth that won't this turn everything into a situation where everybody just wants to ball up again and try to attack a location or to defend a location. So the idea is that it is not just siege. In fact, siege is only happening at 2 locations, and the only way that it's going to work is if you control Lugazag or Tirith Rhaw. You have to control either one of those locations. In order to upgrade the door or the gateway, you have to also own the Grimwood lumber camp. So if you don't own that, you can't upgrade the doors. Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
As soon as you start to upgrade the gates, there's a general call that goes out into the Ettenmoors that says, whichever side is trying to build the gate at this location. You have to complete the quest 10 times. If it's built to 5, you get another notification. At 9, there's the last moment where everybody's like, hey, you gotta go stop them from doing something. So you either have to get the Grimwood and take it away from them, or you have to stop them from building the gate. After that, the gate slams closed, and the only way in, or the only ways in and out, that's the important part. If you are locked inside of the tower at that point in time, you can only leave by jumping out, or taking the teleporter out. The only way to do it otherwise now is going to be by bringing in a battering ram to batter down the doors. And the defenders can throw up ballista within the area of the 2 towers. We're making it so that you can't summon too many of these at the same time because we don't want them to become littered all over the battle space. So you can get between 4 and 6 if you really position them in super strange ways, like a Jenga puzzle.
Okay.
Or Tetris puzzle, really, because it's not truly Jenga. So that's really for the ballistas. The battering rams are going to be the only thing that can really do damage to the doors. So the reason that we're doing that is to slow down the battles at those particular locations, put more impetus on controlling the Grimwood and also the Isendeep. So if you control the Isendeep mine by killing Grodris, you're actually going to have the ability to build the cauldrons, and the cauldrons are going to change a little bit. They're going to deal more damage, and they're going to deal a megaton of damage to the battering rams to be able to keep the battering rams off of the doors. So that's the idea behind those particular locations. Now, I said ways into the towers. So we've refurbished the forward camps that were created, I think, about 7 years ago or something like that, a while ago, where you now can capture those and then go into a new area called the Underseats. The Underseats is nothing more right now than a tunnel structure that I built on my lonesome and put some really bad lighting in. When I say bad lighting, it's really bad lighting, but it's set up so that it's very easy to tell where you're supposed to go because all of the hallways are color-coded. Scenario has already threatened to get in there and make it look a little better. So that might happen sometime in the near future. But for right now, with the initial push out the door to Bull Roar, it's just going to be very, very plain. But the idea is that you can take one of those locations, then go underneath the Ettenmoors, not into the Ettendeep. There are plans for the Ettendeep, I swear. But what the Underseas does is it connects one side of the map to the other.
Okay.
So if you get the new Orc camp, which is the one that's north of Tirith Rhaw, and drop in, you can take a direct line from there into Tirith Rhaw. So if you are trying to attack the keeps, attack the towers, you can take this location, and then you've got a secret entrance that will pop you into and beyond the door inside of the tower. Which means that somebody's really going to have to defend the tower if they want to hold it. Now, the other thing that we've done at the towers is we're actually putting in new Nemesis-level monsters that are going to be defending the basement, the top floor, and we're beefing up the bosses in the keeps as well, because what we're finding is really good players could solo sometimes and easily duo the towers, and we don't want that to happen. We want the towers to actually be something that is a little difficult to take. We want that to stay above group size. Like, group size is the big thing. So the Underseats is a new concept where we're actually testing something out, and it's important to bring this up because it is a proof of concept. We're testing it for the first time. We're starting next week. Hopefully, if everything goes well, the plan is to have the first bull roar next week. The idea is that the Underseats have 2 relics that are inside of the location.
Okay.
When you are down there, if you enter on the elf side, so that's the south of Lugazag, there is a hidden door that you won't be able to find initially. You'll be able to find it. It's pretty well lit, and you're going to see that, oh, that looks different. But you can't open it. The only way to open it is by crossing the entire Underseas to go to the other side and throw a switch. Same is true from the other side. It's almost symmetrical, not quite, but it's pretty symmetrical in the way that it's laid out. Opening the doors enables you to go in and pick up a relic. You either get a Visage of Gil-galad or a Visage of Sauron.
Okay.
If you pick up the Visages, you now start to take damage because you're holding something that is the complete antithesis of what it means to be you. So you're either holding a thing of evil or a thing of good, and you want to cleanse this thing. So there's another area inside of the Underseats called the Overhaul, where you'll go into. It will remove that debuff when you're inside of the Overhaul. You will also have the ability to cleanse it. To cleanse it, you have to spill the blood of the enemy inside of that location. If you and your fellowship kill 12 members of the opposition while you're inside the space, you'll cleanse the relic and get a bonus to your damage. You also take a little extra damage, but you get a bonus that will persist through death for 15 minutes, which will give you a slight edge if you go to take the keeps through the hidden passageways.
Okay.
So the idea is to prove a couple of things. The relics are an attempt, they're a proof of concept to changing the way that the artifacts are captured. So right now when the artifacts are captured, you have to slog across the map, and if you die, it goes right back to wherever you picked it up. Well, you're going to drop these relics. They're going to fall down the ground. Your enemies can put them back by interacting with them, or you can pick them up and start carrying them around again if one of your other teammates takes them
Okay.
up, or somebody on your side picks it up. So we figured out how to do that, and we're testing it to validate that it'll work. If this is successful, it gives us the ability to switch the way that the artifacts are currently working right now. It makes it so that we can make those into dynamic battlefield pieces as well. On top of that, it kind of informs what we're going to do with the Ettendeep when we get there, which I'm hoping to be able to revisit the Ettendeep again, probably sometime for the first update of 2026.
I'm going to be getting those luminous spirit stones back.
Kind of. We're gonna be changing them up because we need to make sure that currency isn't something that people have stockpiled over the years. But if we're gonna do upgraded corruption bits, it's very likely going to be the way that we do it, and we'll also have something in there for the freeps as well. So the notion here is to prove this out, prove that it can be successful, prove that it will not cause any kind of untoward activity, particularly on the servers, but also to spread the player base out, because we don't expect that there's going to be, full raids that roll into the Underseats unless they're just trying to roll through. But who knows, right? Like players are always good at screwing up my fun. But the idea is that when you go in here, you fight, you get the buff, you go in to try to take one of the towers out. At the same time, we're also trying to spread people out towards Overhaul and Grotham again by putting in new heroes that are available at each location. A Hobbit in Overhaul, a new Goblin up in Grotham. If they're alive and you control any location of Tirith Rhaw, Tol Ascarnen, or Lugazag, I did that backward, you end up getting a bonus at that location while they're alive. For creeps, the bonus is damage and a little bit of mitigations.
Okay.
For creeps, it's health. Morale, I should say, and power. Not that the power is really that big of a deal, but the morale and the damage and the mitigations apply not only to you but also to the monsters inside of your keep.
Okay, that's pretty
so
big.
that everything gets a buff when the heroes are alive, which means that you probably want to kill the heroes. They're not going to be pushovers. They're not going to be super tough. It's going to be 2 or 3 players can probably deal with that. So a small group can go down there and deal with that aspect of it. So the idea is that we shift a lot of the way that the battle is working. We put more of the big nemesis pods into the lumber camp, the Grimwood, and then we keep everything kind of status quo with Grodris up in the Isendeep. But we add in a couple of other targets that you need to go to, add Grotham and Horhallow. And yes, I know that we need to change the rate at which the respawns happen for both Buck and Mayor Will Whitfoot, if that's his name, I can't remember right now. But yeah, so they'll actually be a little bit faster too. But the way that the 2 heroes will work is they will respawn every 15 minutes, so that there's a target that you rotate to every 15 minutes. So this is all part of the siege changes that are happening. These are all things that are contributing to the way that this works. And then the last one is with the introduction of the reward track last year, we reintroduced a pseudo destiny with Marta. Marta is going to come back. The reward track is coming back. It's going to be a little longer. It's going to be 50 levels. It's going to last for 40. It's going to be a weird number, right? It's 40. I've got it set for 7 weeks right now, 49 days. The reason that we're doing that is we eventually want it to overlap and make it an even longer period of time. But we also want to make sure that the reward structure is good enough for players to get through and a reason for them to continue going through. So we are changing out the way that works so that it's a longer track to get through, needing about 10 quests a day if you want to complete it at normal pace. If you do more than 10 quests a day, you're going to blow through the track faster. Okay, great. But one of the things we want to do is provide a reason for Marta. And right now you're going to be earning the Marta on the creep side. And if you're on the creep side, you'll also be getting it too because it is an account shared currency. So what we've done is we've added new vendors to outposts. Those vendors at the outpost only appear when you control the outpost.
Okay.
The vendors sell perks for Marta that will boost your physical, tactical mitigations, will boost your damage, will boost your morale, boost your power. On the player side, the boost for mitigations is a little lower. On the monster side, the mitigations is a little higher. Again, we're trying to get that balance back in a semblance of a way that in the semblance that we can and the way that we can. And then the other things that are available out there are things like the Tomes of Defense, some of the potions that are also sold in the store, but we're going to move those into a mithril coin exchange so you can buy those with mithril. So if you want them on the fly, you can have them. And then the other thing that's going to be added is Audacity for monster players. You can purchase Audacity directly from any one of those outpost folks. They only appear when you control it, so that they're now a reason to visit the outposts when you're actually out there. The buffs last for 30 minutes. They persist through death. You don't have to worry about going back and refreshing them every 10 minutes or every time you die. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
People right now, but that's kind of what we had to do, and the way that I kind of looked at it was the only approach that I can take is to give you so much and so many reasons to go to these different locations to try to spread out the battle across the Ettenmoors.
Well, I can definitely, recall my early days in the game, 2007, 2008. Just, there's a couple people in chat here that were part of those groups. We loved doing, 3 to 6 person groups running around. That combat always felt better. just all around. You know, it was like you'd win some, you'd lose some. You would, you know, you might come across the full raids and hop in there and get a little action, but then, you know, pop out and go take a keep or go take a outpost, or, you know, the small combat always felt better. So I think that's a good approach to take of trying to not get rid of the raid versus raid, because I don't think there's anything that'll, unless they don't get anything.
I just want to bend the mentality a little bit, right? I don't think we can change it.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, after 18 years, that the style of gameplay that's out there now is going to be really hard to adjust.
Yeah.
So people always ask, you know, people always will comment, why are you doing this? It's a waste of resources, you know, go just fix balance. And it's like, yeah, I can't just fix balance for all the reasons that I said at the beginning of the show. Like, it's just not there. Like,
well, also, what does that mean? It's different for different people. Yeah. So, you know, if people tend to, you know, get on me a little bit because I end up being solo out there a lot, and there's just not a great experience for a solo player out there. And, you know, it's rightfully brought on upon myself. You know, people don't want to be on stream. People don't want to give away where their positions are, stuff like that. So there's a whole separate issue there. But, you know, I don't know, just the raid versus raid situation. It seems to embody all the things that we don't like. There's a lot more lag. There's, you know, so many healers, or so many of, you know, stacked classes that, you know, there are some situations where it's a push. Yeah. And then what you ultimately end up seeing, at least we see it on Glamdring a lot, I don't know how people see it on the other servers, is that, you know, if you get the outnumbered buff right now, you end up seeing just a large portion of the other side log off and log on to the other side, and then it's just that's not fun either. So
yeah, I mean, if we could fix that, I'd want to fix that.
Yeah.
But the restriction aspect is just not viable. So we kind of have to keep muddling through the way that we are. I mean, the thing that I can always just point to and say is, if I wanted to go for straight up balance, I would have to figure out what the mean player is, right? What is the total middle of the road player really like? What class are they playing? And what can they handle in a one-on-one situation from a PvE standpoint? Because for all intents and purposes, a creep is a PvE monster that has statistics that move in the same way that our PvE monsters move. You know, we obviously have some variables that we can tweak along the way, but there's nothing broad enough to give them the same kind of breadth that, you know, a full suite of armor and jewelry and weaponry and everything else, you know, virtues, everything else that players have. Just, it's not possible to do for the monster side. And if it were, there'd have to be another way to earn it, which would again upset the players that just want to jump in and start PvP right away. It's part of the reason why I'm trying to figure out even faster ways for players to get into PvMP.
Yeah. So,
but again, like a lot of this is just difficult and takes time.
Sure. I mean, like we said before, with the wide range of skill, like that's going to be almost impossible, to your point. But then you kind of touched on it before with the point about the rate in which stuff is earned in the group sizes. Did I read that you were going to be reducing that?
We tried. Like, we actually did reduce it. Excuse me, last year. But it turned out that there was just more going on that we didn't know about. So we are working on trying to get that fixed to stick and work outside of the current variables that we kind of assigned to it because they should work, but they don't as soon as you tip the scales. So we need to fix that. I mean, a lot of this is that so there's no getting around the fact that we're very small, like as far as the studio is concerned. And, the amount of time that we need to dedicate to other aspects of the game, specifically back-end stuff, pretty much choose through the amount of time that our engineers would really have to give us a lot of the gameplay changes that we need to have for monster plays. So over time, and I'm just starting to do this, but Vastin, who has been there for a long time too, it has become kind of like a junior engineer on his own. So we kind of have we're trying to hybridize everybody as much as we can. Yeah. So he's kind of a systems. He's the systems / content / engineer, and I'm still kind of the system / content / world builder when I need to be, and kind of everything else that I need to be when I need to be. So we're all trying to get a little deeper into the things that we kind of are interested in, and he's gotten really good at working through some of the code, and he's the one that actually surfaced this and was like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it works, because it doesn't, because deeper in the code here, this still exists, and not only does it exist, it isn't bound by anything. So that file that we thought bounded everything doesn't do that. And I was like, oh, well, that's not good. How come we never knew that? But it's because we made so many changes and that tribal knowledge got lost.
Gotcha.
When we turned off the stars, that was one of the points that things went away. When we turned off the leaderboard, that was another time where that all got lost. And then when we went free to play and we completely got rid of Destiny and everything else that was tied to a lot of monster play, just more got lost, more get hidden. And now we're slowly unburying it, taking the little toothbrush and going over and going, oh, look at that, it's a gem, that's fantastic.
Gotcha. Well, if there is, let's see, I don't know how I want to put this. Let me pull this outline back up here. So I think there's going to be some people that don't understand what you mean on this, as far as the Tol Ascarnen part, with the no major changes. What's that?
Center keep.
Center keep.
That's what it is. It's a center keep.
But so bringing the flags back, because I think some people haven't been around since they were there and then gone.
Yeah, and actually that's not going to make the cut. At least I don't think it's going to make the cut. So the flags originally were, and it's funny, right? This is something that Scenario and I were kind of just talking about last week on We Have a Cave Troll. When you communicate to the player base, it can sometimes really backfire on you. So when you don't provide all the context necessary, like when you say, I want to bring the flags back to Tol Ascarnen, the immediate response was, oh, you're going to put the NPCs back on the bridge and lag things out even more. That would not have been the notion. The notion would have been that you would be able to take the flags from Elf Camp or Orc Camp, plant them on the other side to give yourself the boost of speed that you used to get from traveling over those two locations, not to put an impediment in the way. Because one of the things that's been really, I think has been more beneficial was stripping out a lot of the defenders at the different locations of the keeps. Because whether we want to acknowledge this or not, like when we create a lot of our monsters all at the same time, there is a hit on the servers, which is why you'll see this happening inside of Tol Ascarnen, in Tol Ascarnen too, but primarily in Tirith Rhaw and Lugazag moving forward. There's a more staggered approach to the way that everything's getting generated to try to mitigate some of that hard server lag that we have when, I think there was 60 some odd mobs at each location that would come in, and well, it turns out that's really bad, especially when you're flopping events and you're doing all sorts of other things. And it was fine in the early days, but now, with everybody being as large as they are on the server, it gets worse and worse.
do you think there is well, has the impact of Grodrus been good from your vantage point? Like people going up there to fight and taking the getting the buff and everything to the point
I
where
think it's a non-factor.
really?
Honestly, I think it's a non-factor. I think that sometimes people will do it just because it's something to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think on its own there was enough to it.
Okay.
And I think with this change where now there's an added reason to get the Isendeep, that it's probably going to make more sense for people to actually group up and go after that every once in a while. In fact, we're probably going to want to change it so that she spawns a little more frequently, because I think that it's going to be she'll probably have to go down to like the same amount of time that maybe even the heroes are 15 minutes. We'll have to see. But to see how that plays out. But I think that's going to be kind of an important thing to have, to make sure that you are getting the Isendeep and getting the cauldrons built up. Because I think even if the gates aren't there, you can still build the cauldrons, which means that, oh yeah, you can put in this really high damage pour of oil onto people's heads as they're trying to run through the door.
Right.
Which the whole idea is that you can do that, and then maybe they'll circumvent that by going through the underseats. So again, I'm looking for more variable gameplay out there. Is really what I'm getting back to. I'm at least hoping to.
Yeah, I feel like that is what the Ettendeep really did provide, because people were going down there because they needed the spirit stones to get their gear and the other things. So it was fun as hell to fight down there. So
yeah,
going after I can't remember the boss's name. Right, was it like a Rogmole right in the middle, and just
Gargaroth the Unbound.
There you go. It's been a while, man. Like, come on.
I know. It's yeah. No, I mean, one of the things that we really do want to do, when I say we, me and On, we've been talking about this, and we want, when the Ettendeep comes back, and it's going to come back, we want it to be something that benefits both sides equally. The difficulty is still in making it not feel like you have to PvE to advance your PvP, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Right. I mean, now granted, with the luminous stones and with the luminous and the dull stones that you had to get, it was fine for the players, right? Because they were like, yeah, this is standard behavior for us. We go out, we kill things, we get loot, we trade loot in to get better loot, blah blah. But for the monster players who just want to go out there and fight, it's a departure from what they really want to do. So we have to figure out what the positive way to incentivize this is, and to make it so that there are, I want to call them shortcuts. Shorthand is probably the better way to say it, right? There's an easier way to get to whatever the goals are. And what we had initially proposed was that you'd have to get a whole bunch of these stones, and potentially the heart stone of one of the bosses down there in order to craft different things. And that's probably going to be still the core mechanic of it when we get there. It's just going to be how we do it and how we tie that back to the outposts, what it means. Does it turn into a thing where now you have to defend for a period of time? There's like, what gameplay can we put in there that makes it so that there's a solid disruption aspect to it, and then there's a solid, like, oh, this is going to cause fights at this location, we should do this. And that way, right, our kinship can defend against whoever tries to take this out while we're trying to do it. It's just, we can lead the horse to water, we can't make it drink. Like, we can put in all these things for players to do, but whether or not they find the value in them is always a question of, do you actually see the value in what we're trying to put in here? And it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was it on all the stuff that you had posted, because I think largely it all kind of ties together for the most part.
It does.
And
it does.
I can honestly say just from 64-bit alone, just having the experience prior to that, really leading up to it, was pretty miserable as far as you could go run around and not see anybody, do a full lap of the moors. All right, well, I'm done with this. To now, I've been on it 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's just still tons of combat going on. So that's been great. So I think you'll at the very least, you should get a lot of data from whatever you do implement.
You say that. We've actually been getting a lot of data from the Ettenmoors that's helping to influence and advise us for the future in other areas because of how populated they are.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? The more, and this isn't me trying to get you to play Monster Play, although I'd love it if you want to play more Monster Play. The more that people are engaging with that system, and the more that they're actually putting into that system, the more we can work on some of the development of it. And I think that my hope and my goal is that we can kind of revitalize it in a way where we can set aside some time to work on it. You know, certainly not every patch, because that's just not a possibility, but, you know, maintain it at least once a year, potentially twice if we can. I mean, part of like the part of the things that we're building in right now are ideas to sustain through those periods where there isn't anything directly being developed, which is why, you know, I mention the fact that the reward track will be there, and it's going to be 7 weeks, so it's, you know, 49 days each. At the end of that 49 days, the next one will be available right after. We've got enough that are going to be planned from now until the beginning of next year, so we can continue that on. And, you know, like it's things like that where there are easier to implement, a higher impact items or objectives and mechanics that we can put into the game is really what kind of keeps us, you know, moving forward on the things that we want to, and making sure that we can keep them fresh and new and interesting. At least we hope to.
Well, I remember like the last time we talked, I always got to throw this out there, you know. Is there ever a chance that I'm going to get those arenas? Little 2v2 actions, 3v3s, something like that.
So I have a prototype. I think I mentioned this last year. I do. I have a prototype. The problem is that there is no effective way to keep. Well, now I just said that, and I actually thought of a way I might be able to do it. But the hard part is being able to keep the numbers where they need to be, and then coming up with the tracker that shows you how you're doing inside of a given fight. And then the worst part is, because of the way that monster players were built, I cannot move them right now into instanced spaces. So it has to be a public area that they go to.
I have a solution for you. So you already have it out there in that far southwestern corner, right?
That's On's fault.
Huh?
That's On's fault. On MM put that out there. But yes, go on.
So, you know, you already have the technology out there with the flags that you can port, correct? So we're just gonna have to put up some invisible walls, port them in there, and the only way out is the map out.
We probably remove the ability to map while you're inside of it and make it that you have to die, and then we have to put in new locations for that. But yeah, I mean, we could do something like that. Whether or not that's, you know, if that's something that a lot of players start to ask for, then who knows? Maybe we can get it done. Like that wouldn't be impossible. And now just sitting here thinking about it, I think I know a way that I could make that work, so that you couldn't get into the space unless some other criteria had been met. It's just, there's a timing issue there, just based off of the way that our game still works. So we have to figure that out. But, you know, early on we were talking about some of the imbalances and some of the issues and the, you know, the utility, right? So I'm gonna let everybody in on a little secret now.
Oh, you want to do this now, huh?
Do it now. We're over an hour in, right?
I think it's safe. Well, we gotta see, like, let's see if anybody wants.
Take questions first. Let's take questions first. That's fine.
No, I was gonna say if they even want the news. Like I don't
Oh yeah,
know.
maybe they do.
They've been surprisingly
Maybe they
quiet
don't.
over there. They've been very tame and very polite right
They
now.
have.
So
Yeah.
um
I
see
don't have to let it up. That's fine.
this is also I guess the benefit of doing it at 10 o'clock at night. So all
Yeah.
of Europe's asleep.
Seb knows this. Like I already told Seb I was going to bring this up. Uh, Cordovan knows it too. I mentioned it. They both probably forgotten. So this will get picked up tomorrow by Massively, and they'll be like, "Why did you say anything?" And it'll be a thing. But for a long time, utility wise, what's it been? Like when did the filer go in? God, that was
10, 9, 10,
2009,
No,
right?
it's late. No, it was during Moria.
It was Moria.
So it was late 2008, early 2009. It's been a long time.
It has. It's been a long time. So let's go to your chat on this, and let's ask them if they had a choice, what would they want if there were a new class?
A new.
And this is gonna make me sad, right? Because they're gonna say the wrong thing, and they're gonna be horribly disappointed.
Like,
But
oh.
I do. I kind of want to see what their thinking is. I'm looking. I'm watching. Easterling Warden? Oh man, totally not what I'm making at all.
The Necromancer's a little closer, isn't it?
A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Now, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for building out a goblin hooligan. Now, when I say goblin hooligan, it's exactly what I mean. So, if anybody's familiar with English football, there are soccer. Well, they're called football hooligans, right? But basically, it's just little gangs of people that run around, right? And they're not really gangs of people that run around. It's just that the idea of the goblin hooligan was the whole, like, there's one goblin sapper that's always running around with the bomb over his head, and he's in control of like 4 little pale folk, and he makes those pale folk carry the bomb and run over there and blow up little groups of players, or to go out and be the lure for the fight or whatever. So that's one of the classes that I would love to make one day. I'm not making that. But I would love to make that class, because I think that would be just much fun to eventually get that in there. But the other class that I've always been like really excited about building, I may have been working on for about the past 3 years. And they are at the point now where I probably have about maybe a week to 2 more weeks of work before it is in a playable state. That doesn't mean that it will ship with U45, because there's a lot that could go wrong. But I'm hoping that there can at least be a preview in U45, and then maybe we can get this out later on in the year, or potentially early in the next year. And, we could drum roll it or whatever. Oh, look, someone actually said it.
There you
Yeah, it's the Angmarim Sorceress. And
there we go.
It's the class that I have been really gung-ho on making for a really long time. And I think that she's very unique. And if you want details, I mean, I've got the spec open right next to me. I can give details.
So let's start up at the 30,000 view and come down. What do you see as the overall function of this class? Like you said, utility, but broaden that a little bit.
She is an analog for both Lore Master and Runekeeper, with very limited healing, but mostly utility, in the form of debuffs and buffs. And a lot of damage thrown in, because, both Lore Masters and Runekeepers have a lot of damage thrown in. She's a 100% tactical. In fact, she has no damaging physical skills at all. She will wield a staff, but she's not gonna whack people over the head like the like the Defiler. She's all tactical all the time, and she's unique, very unique.
Okay. And now Goblin Hooligan for the win.
Not surprised.
So just people want to run around with a fire pot over their head, just chucking at people.
I'm telling you, it'd be such a great class. Those
Well, hey,
dudes chasing you everywhere.
That could be, an alternate to the troll. Like, just
It could be. Yeah, maybe I could prototype it and get it out there and see how it works.
You gotta put that one on a timer. You get 10 minutes to go bomb somebody.
I mean, no joke. I did think about doing this with. All right, so the whole idea with Siege, I got rid of catapults because the catapults were just goofy looking and they weren't doing what I want them to do. So I was like, what if I made goblin sappers that just run up and throw themselves at the gates? And then, hobbit throwers who just came out and just started chucking axes at the gates. And I was like, it would probably work, but there'd probably be a little bit of negative response for that because it'd be kind of weird that you got a goblin just like running at a gate with a bomb, so it'd be kind of weird.
I mean, you had an Uruk do it in the Two Towers. I mean, come on.
I know. There's definitely
there's precedent.
There's definitely something there to we could work on, but I just looked at it and said, yeah, that's probably a little too much for right now. So we'll hold off on that for the moment.
All right, so give us some details on the Angmarim Sorceress then.
All right. A couple of details on the Angmarim Sorceress. So, when I say that she's like a cross between the Lore Master and the Runekeeper, she also has a little bit of like Wardeny type sauce thrown in. When I say Wardeny type sauce, she has a mechanic built in called Sorcerer's Study. What that gives her the ability to do is prepare some spells ahead of time. So before, or even during battle, if she wants to, she can prepare a selection of spells that she has available to her that are locked and loaded for later use. Early on, before she earns all of her traits, they do a lot less damage or a lot less length and duration in what the skill does. But over time, she can get rid of that reduction and have the full capacity of those spells available to her. That's one of her big mechanics. She has stances. Her baseline stance, her baseline abilities are all around acid. So she will throw little acid globules or create pools of acid around people, acid clouds, things like that. And that's like her baseline skills. But then she has 3 devotions. And her devotions are to the Gelid Wind, the Umbral Pall, and Balefire. Each of those corresponds to, frost, shadow, and fire. And she can dance between those devotions whenever she wants. So she's not locked in. And in fact, the idea is that if you're playing this class, you're encouraged to bounce between them because of her third big mechanic, which is her sorceress synergies. These are when certain effects are applied to either enemies or allies of a certain elemental bent. They have elemental interactions with the other elements of that type. So if you apply, say, an acid debuff on a target. For example, let me just go through and I'll just explain it.
Okay.
If you were to apply miasma, which is a cloud of acid that just kind of appears on the battlefield that lowers some armor value and deals a little damage over time. If you were to hit the object that is causing that miasma with a fire spell, it becomes an effect that will reduce armor rating more, deal both fire and acid damage, and blow up everything in a 6-meter radius around it.
All right.
Leaving a little bit of DOT and the armor reduction for a short period of time, and applies. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute because that's an even more level of complexity on the class too. But it also applies an effect to the sorceress that builds up over time. So there's those types of things. She will have a frost sheath where she can just throw herself into ice and then blow herself up, shattering the ice and dealing damage to everyone around her. It's basically to give the class a lot of different gameplay style, and also to make it a very expert level class.
Okay.
Because of all the different things that she can do.
So for all those, skill issue players.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's also going to be completely viable just to play her in Shadow and not use any of these other bonuses. Not use any of these other interactions because they're not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole Shadow specialization is built around reducing like outgoing healing and incoming healing, and reducing some of the visibility that the enemy will have with their spells. So it reduces the range on the different skills that are there, but not so much that it eliminates like a champion's ability to attack. Because one of the issues that we have is if we're making a broad like a change to say, just range on anything, we can actually make it that you can't attack anymore, because we are just applying a very large blanket to that, which is we have to be very cautious of these things. So we're trying to come up with better ways to handle that, which is why it's taken a while to get the class out there. And again, like I said, there's no guarantee that she's going to make the cut for 45, because I've had to do a lot of this without anybody but me working on it. So it's been a while. It's been one of the things that I've been working on in the background. But yeah, the whole idea of the Umbral Pall specialization is that it's the buff debuff profile, where she's constantly applying effects to the enemy and also giving some benefits to her allies at the same time. Building up a long-term like fear effect on the enemy that eventually triggers and tanks some of their mitigations for a while. I'm looking over here now.
That's all right. You're good.
Oh yeah, that's a good dad joke right there. The whole miasma thing up there. That's really good.
Well, see, now with these synergies, you're just gonna have to make the Goblin Hooligan anyway, so they can just run into the acid cloud and ignite it.
Yeah. So like the whole idea. I mean, and so if anybody's ever played Magicka or played like Spellbreak, like those were games that kind of did this kind of thing. So I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from those, where there's that interaction aspect of it. And the way that we're handling it is that there's just a few baseline skills that the sorceress will have that are banes or boons. So if there are things that she's applying that are negative, you're going to use the bane aspect. If you're applying something that's positive, it's the boon aspect. So that you're aiding your allies and attacking your enemies constantly, and making sure that you're applying the anti-mitigations and mitigations for your allies. Like there's capstone skills for each of the specializations, and while it seems like there's an awful lot of skills, there's actually a lot of skills. But I'm hoping she's going to be fun. I'm really hoping she's going to be fun. I mean, on paper, she seems fantastic.
Well, I mean, I think it's just going to be a big deal just to have something else. That's, if you've caught any of the recent streams, it's been, like we were talking about earlier, just with the class stacking, it's like you got to have something to break that up and to encourage some different gameplay, and that should be pretty good. So, man, I feel like I had a bunch more questions for around this, but So this is meant to be, in the truest sense, a support class
Oh,
for them.
support class.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's we'll let people kind of stew on that for a minute and see if there's any questions on that, and then in the meantime, was there anything that you noticed in chat, any questions wise, that you wanted to kind of pick apart a little bit?
I didn't really see anything that was there. It was kind of like you said, it was kind of muted.
Yeah.
There's a question about will there ever be a LOTRO 2? Well, I don't think we're ever going to be redoing the game. No, so probably not. Yeah, there are questions of whether or not we could ever scale back to level 50 across the board. One of the things that we're still working on for the game, just in general, is we want to give the players the ability to level down, right? To down level and assist their newer players. We don't have to stick just to PvMP either. Like I'm fine talking about other things. Like we do have the kinship stuff in the works, and one of the notions is that we would really like to tie a lot of the downscaling stuff that isn't coming this year, but we're still looking at into kinships over time, so that there's more reason for a kinship to down level and support those newer members of the kinship and just the community at large.
Actually, Khan brings up a good point here. With some of this, I kind of look at it even a more broad scale, because so for me as a melee class, one of the things I will always struggle with is the kiting, massive amounts of dots, bleeds, and then I was seeing it a lot the other day. Was pretty good, having multiple wargs root me, and then I was in the spider web and had a black arrow fighting me. So once I finally got all that, then I was in a trap, and it's like, well, you only have so many removables. So like using my PvE removals, my skill removal, my insignia, and then at that point, well, I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna die here. So, what are your thoughts on like the CC state out there right now?
Man, if I'm being 100% honest, and I think I was last year too, I hate CC in PvP because I don't like losing control of my character. That said, we've got a lot of CC in the game, which is why the brands exist. It's why we need to fix, certainly on the creep side, the ability to make sure that your slows aren't you're immune to slows for a period of time. Like there are reasons to keep it, there are reasons to not. And we've done what we can to like reduce the efficacy at a certain level, which is why, like, as much as I wish we could just deep 6 audacity, the audacity benefits do start to kick in relatively quickly and make it so that that CC is less impactful the more it happens to you, or the higher up you are. It's rough, man. Like there's no easy solution to it. If we just get rid of it altogether, then who would ever go into the CC portion of things, right? They'd probably just all go glass cannon, and then it'd just be damage. Be no reason to ever go CC.
Yeah.
And there are some classes that are just kind of built around it. You say what you want, wargs and burglars are pretty much like primary stealth around, CC somebody, lock them down kind of classes, right? Like that's really the way that. Okay, so there are some burglars that are now going out there stealthing and just coming out and wrecking people as fast as they can. But still, mostly they open with you're stunned and now you're going to watch me kill you slowly. Ha ha ha. Right. The short answer is there's really not much we're doing about it right now. The long answer is, if we could redo a lot of aspects of the game, there'd probably be less CC, certainly in the PvP aspect of things. And I know that people are saying, because I'm not looking at it right now, but I know people are saying, well, just make X work in PvP only. Yeah, we can kind of do that, but it is really, really difficult to maintain. And the minute that you start down that road and you start to make those changes, everything has a higher chance of being overlooked or missed or not updated correctly in the future.
Right.
Because we're tribal, and because of the tribal knowledge departing, coming back, whatever, you're going to lose some of that, and you're not going to know why these decisions were made, and somebody's going to rip it off, and then at some future time, someone's going to be like, oh, Jackalope 32, who's the new PvMP designer, completely destroyed the Ettenmoors because now this skill is viable again. Good job. There are just some things that aren't going to be handled easily unless we build them that way from the get-go, which is why like the new buffs that you get for Marta are all restricted to the Ettenmoors.
Right.
Once you leave, they're dispelled. Like there's be something clearly on them that says like if you leave the Ettenmoors, these go away.
Yeah.
So don't waste them. If you can't be out here for the next 15 to 30 minutes, you probably don't want to buy this.
Yeah, I think that's actually something you did a good job with the gear the last time around, of just making that tier 1 super accessible by coin,
mm-hmm.
and then making the second one, because it's still really easy to obtain a full set of gear, tweak it out however you want with the essences. Those are super cheap. I mean, I'll just throw this question out there just to hear your thoughts on it, which I probably already know the answer anyway, but it's just like, have you guys ever looked at just not being able to use LIs out there and just using standardized weaponry? I know that irritated half the people that are watching already just by saying it, but
have we floated the idea? Yeah, we floated the idea. Is it something that is really conceivable and possible? No. Now, when I say that, like, I'm sure there's going to be some visceral reaction somewhere to that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason no is because players get attached to the things that they put a lot of time into developing. And the two things in our game that you put the most time into developing on your character, aside from your character, are your allies and your virtues. And both of those things are, we can just call them what they are. They're treadmills, right? They're things that you are constantly going to have to upgrade. They're things that are always moving up, and they're things that you're always chasing to finish. And then when they get finished, crap, like the next round of them getting upgraded is out there, and now we have to start the process over again. And it is they are, I will say, one of the biggest gripes that players have. There are plans right now to make some aspects of it easier via endgame currencies, specifically, that we are planning on talking about soon, because they are slated to go live with U45. I don't want to go into too much detail right now, but there definitely is some work being done to mitigate the difficulty in getting, say, from your rares to your incomps, from your incomps to your legendaries, and giving you other avenues than you currently have to do so. So that particular grind isn't as bad as it has been in the past. And it's sad that we're on commercial right now, because this is one of those things that you're going to have to mark for YouTube and let people know about. But it's
we can we could just stand here and look here for 2 minutes.
Wait, yeah, I can definitely wait. I can certainly talk about it a little more. Yeah.
I wish that is one thing I need to remember when we do these, is to
turn that down. I don't mind holding and just kind of riffing for a while. I'll do a song.
You just gotta do a lot of like hand motions where it's just like super animated and.
I'm watching The Walking Dead right now. It's great.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, subscribe now to hear what I said.
Yeah.
You can't dismiss it because it's just
it's okay. It's almost over. There's one more.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're constantly trying to come up with better ways to handle those particular aspects. And I mean, one of the things that I pushed for last year was the favorite standing, right? So favorite standing is the first kind of attempt at enhancing what the VIP system does for you, and making it so that VIP has a little more value overall by altering the way that you earn your reputation advancement. I think I mentioned this last year too. I don't make any decisions that don't have some kind of an ulterior motive or an objective for later on. So the favorite standing is a foundational element for items that I would like to push for in the future. And that means that there were some engineering bucks spent to do a few back-end alterations that give us a little more flexibility in myriad ways. Not just that we can do this, right? It gave us more of a it gives us a little more capacity to make changes that are on the account level than we had before, and it gives us more capacity to do things of a larger nature. And that, coupled with, as silly as as silly as it may sound, that coupled with the introduction of birding and the way that we handled the collection aspect of birding, is all starting to move towards a bigger interaction and goal that we kind of have through the development of the game. And that's like every single one of these little things is a building block to something greater along the line. And it's figuring out how to order those together in a way that actually brings something new to the game that hopefully players interact with and find enjoyable, so that we can continue down the path that we're trying to continue down. So now that we're back on a break, I can go back into the discussion on some of the things that we're talking about right now, for taking your existing legendary items from that, whether they're rare, and then you have to find the incomparables, and then the real slog really trying to find the legendaries, of finding a different way to allow players to do that. And we're working on that for U45 so that there's an alternate way to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to make it so that you can just do it immediately. It just means that there's going to be another way that you can use currency that you're already using inside of the game, that you're already earning inside of the game, that everybody has, and you can now just have another way to level up your allies. The notion of ripping the allies out of the Ettenmoors altogether, because people dedicate so much time to them, I think it's almost a non-starter, because I think if dealing with the monster play community for as long as I did previously, and I have since returning, gives me any kind of information, no matter what you do, you're going to piss off one side.
Yeah, 100%.
Somebody's going to be pissed about things that you've done and things that you changed, and you have to be willing sometimes to just bite that bullet and be like, yeah, I'm going to get shredded for a while. Like, the whole thing with Siege right now, like, I knew as soon as I put that up, I was going to get shredded. I get shredded inside of a meeting internally. They're like, people hate it. And I'm like, they don't. You're only looking at like 5 posts from 5 different people. You're not looking at what's being said on Discord. You're not looking at what's being said on Reddit. Okay, you can look at Facebook, but Facebook is just one of those places where I don't know what the hell's going on Facebook half the time. But you can't just scrape the top of something and say this is the real response, right? The real response is, do people actually play it? I think one of the best things that I did and why I pulled Siege the first time is because we got in and we played with the players. We saw what they were doing. We saw what they were saying. I listened to what players were saying and doing and complaining about, and they were right. Like it wasn't ready to see the light of day at that point in time. And I said, I think this is going too far. So rather than push something out there, I said, I'm going to hold this back. And I pulled it back until I actually had some more time to take a look at it and figure out what would be best and ways that I could really kind of add some more dynamism to the map. Because I think that is the primary issue that we currently have, is that the map has become, because the map is 18 years old and there hasn't been a shakeup to it like a legitimate shakeup to it. I guess since Osgiliath, which had its own bevy of issues, there hasn't been like a big shakeup to the overall map in years. So I'm hoping that this kind of big change has some kind of a positive impact on things. I know I'm going to get destroyed for one thing that I did, and that's I moved the elf camp. I had to. Sucks, but I did. I had to move it from its little spot if you're coming from Tol Ascarnen, from the right side of the road to the left side of the road. So it now occupies the wolf camp that was over there. But I had to do that because of the way that the new server boundaries are structured. If I left it where it was, you're crossing over the border every time you step into the elf camp because someone in the Infinite Wisdom way back in the day put it at a 4-corner location. So you're actually crossing over 4 separate boundaries at that one location.
Yeah, somebody sent me the actual like map that they figured out of where all the blocks were, and I was like, ooh, there are some really bad spots there.
There's some really gnarly locations. Yes, Tol Ascarnen is another one, which is why I've actually taken Tol Ascarnen, Tirith Rhaw, and Lugazag, and they are now their own separate areas.
Yeah.
From a game term, they're now their own unique area, not just the POIs. They actually have their own specialized maps, so that they should be a little bit more performant come U45.
Will that affect how things like the defense quests work, or is that the radius is still the same for those then?
Nope. All that stuff doesn't change. It's just that it moves to it moves to a different method for handling a lot of the output on it, so that it's just easier to handle.
Okay.
It should actually be a little better.
Kind of speaking on the well, TA has a much wider radius than TR and Lug. Well, it's a bigger keep too.
Oh, TA. Oh man, TA is a disaster. It is. It's because it was built. Look, we thought it was great. Like for the time, it was great. But 2007 keeps knocking and saying, "Hi, I know you love me, but we don't really love you anymore." 2007, like that was a bad decision. Like it's across 4 land blocks. Like in our game, we have land blocks, and it's across 4 of them. And when you know it, dead freaking center of the actual castle itself that's where all 4 of them meet. Yeah, great idea. So way back in the day, before pinning, you could be migrating over 4 different servers at that one location.
Yeah, that's awful.
It was really, really bad.
I saw something previous. Oh, we were kind of talking about a little bit with currency and whatnot. And I know he's gonna know exactly who I'm talking about when I say this. The weekly quest that is out in the Ettenmoors, we have a couple of them. Drop the cracked traceries for the Freeps.
Yep.
Can we get that switched to a token? So it's not a RNG drop? Because I know my guy Brant right there. He's got 3 of the same traceries.
Yeah. So that it's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's a tough one to get. Yeah.
We could think about it. I mean, it. Yeah, we could think about it.
Yeah.
There might be another way to solve that too.
That's the one he got on his Berg, was ranged attack bonus. 3 times in a row.
I mean, like, if
there's a better way to like reverse vendor it, because they're not worth enough script for how much effort it takes to get them. To just I'll just dust this one and then buy what I want. Like there needs to be something to better that solution, with the amount of work that you're putting in to just have RNG take over and then there's 80 script.
What I would love, and don't ever hold me to this because it's not anywhere near the future like right now, is I would love a way for every tracer you find to have value to your account. Take that however you want, but that would be my ideal, is that every tracer you find has value to your account. Because I think that's the best spot it could be in.
Yeah, I think you have some of the best solutions in place for things, but in some cases we're just seeing them implemented for not the problems that we have. So like the collection system is fantastic. I would love to see it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting if like every tracer you discovered went into a collection panel?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, I would love to see it, gear collections, so I didn't have to have the inventory of it. Yes, I realize there is a monetary aspect to the wardrobe. Obviously, that's a thing. People spend money on that. But, like, I can only spend so much on a wardrobe and then have inventory taken up for 40 gear slots and all that.
I mean, like, I think that there's a bunch of low hanging fruit that we could certainly go after, and there are some changes that, like I said, everything that I'm trying to push for with Sev and the team is for longevity, is for the continued health of the game, is for much larger goals than players are going to see up front. Like, there's always going to be questions as to, well, why did you make birding into a collection panel? Well, I mean, you might have hit it a little bit with your question, right? Like, if there is a road that we want to go down in the future along those lines, we need to have a prototype.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to have something that's been built that we can say, this is proven that this is not only viable, but and we discovered some really interesting things with the way that birding works. The biggest one is that certain collection panels, were they ever implemented, would be arduous to open.
Yep.
Because even the birding panel, once you have everything kind of collected, is not necessarily instantaneous. So, there's, where are the benefits? Where are the wins that we can get from there? What is it that we can improve upon to kind of push that forward? And then, we have to do another iteration or another iterative advance on this to see how far we can push it. I mean, all these things, especially with a team that is as small as we are, we have to be very cautious because
Sure.
we don't have the opportunity to miss big, right? It's such a silly line from The Patriot, but it's like aim small, miss small, right? But it's true. Like the smaller you aim, the more concise your aim, the less chance of you catastrophically failing. And that's kind of like what I push in areas to catastrophically fail where, I hope they don't have too much of a detrimental effect. But for the things that really have a long-term approach, I really want to make sure we don't make mistakes. I really want to make sure that we're focused on keeping the viability of the game there, because it's a labor of love for us, and it's a love that all the players that play the game have. And we don't want to do anything to upset that in any way, shape, or form.
No, and that makes sense, and that's always the fun part of doing this for me is I get to poke a little bit and see where we are. But I'm gonna type this out for chat too for those who might not be right there. So because we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, getting close.
It's only midnight.
Yeah, only. But I'm gonna give an opportunity that's anybody watching. If you've got some last minute questions you want to throw out there, it doesn't have to be related to PvP. Sorry,
Nope.
PvMP. But I think it's good that we can take these opportunities in chat. I like the more kind of free flowing dialogue rather than the here's question, here's answer. I think you get to really hash things out a little bit too, which is kind of nice. And let's see here.
I get to talk. If you didn't notice, I like talking.
Hey, I'm here to listen too. So
just before we go any further, I just want to say again, I'm hoping to have the class in a state where it can be played, but don't lose your minds at me if I don't have it ready for U45, because it does require a little more testing. I want to give a preview so that we know that it's coming. You're going to be able to snoop a lot of the skills in a week because they're there, but it may not see prime time yet. It might have to wait a little bit.
Yep.
Go back into the cooker before it's really ready to go.
I know, I can certainly appreciate that too.
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a big one. That's rough. We have a really big anniversary coming up.
Yeah. Not too far away now.
Not too far away. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. Like if we're gonna do something big and transformational, it probably has to be around a big anniversary.
Yeah.
It's probably not a bad time to like look at when we would want to do something like that.
Okay.
Oh, Nasheron asked a question. It's a good one. It's a good one. So I may or may not have started down that path with the cosmetics and more importantly, equipment. It's something that a lot of us internally have wanted for a long time. It's just a matter of if and when we can convince everyone that it would benefit the game to have those. I think that there's enough internal push behind it at this point that we are likely to put in at least something for equipment at some point in the future. I wouldn't. It's definitely not going to be 2025.
Yeah.
It could be 2026 if we continue to push on it. But one of the things, like because of the impact on PvMP, I would love it if you could just put your PvMP gear into a separate equipment slot, and anytime you want to switch over, just swap it out.
Yep.
But it's one of those things where we do have to weigh that against other things that are necessary. And I think the biggest thing right now is making sure that the stability of the game and the way that it plays and functions and just the overall playability is really the forefront and focus of our engineering team right now. And then, of course, because the kinship changes are pretty broad, the kinship aspect of things is another one that we're really kind of focused on for the remainder of the year and into next year. Yeah, I would never say new game engine because that would get me in a lot of trouble. So no, I'm not advocating or saying anything that we're getting a new game engine.
How speaking of that question right there with the carry all kind of situation, it's like from your side of things, how performant are those? Because they seem okay.
They're more performant than opening your bank.
You know.
I mean, so like the snarky answer is that, right? Better than your bank.
Yeah.
The real answer is because of the way that particular storage works, they're performant on you until you start to do like massive travel across the world is the easiest way to say it. Like the more that you're shifting from one location to another, the heavier they become, just because of the way that a lot of our data works, sadly.
Okay.
But on the whole, they're not that terrible. There's a reason why we have kind of fallen back to them, because they're a more performant way for you to get more stuff. And my lord, are you LOTRO players pack rats?
Well, hey, that's a double-sided coin. You guys make a hell of a lot of stuff.
True, but
come on, man. That's not the onus is not all on us here.
We do have concerns that some of you might have hoarding issues in real life. Just because.
I mean, if you make a new item, hey man, we gotta have it.
Yeah, you gotta have it.
It could be the most. There is an item that is still in my bags. It might be in my vault right now, but it's at least in my bags, and it stems from that's probably 12 years ago now. This is when my wife still played. She can't just because of timing now, but she walked up to me, opened a trade, and handed me a potato. I had that potato in my bag for at least 10 years. I think I finally put it in my vault though, but I still have it.
I don't think I'd eat it. I don't think I'd use it in any recipe at this point.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, we keep a lot of items. So, yes, Morniel, it's the potato. Yes. See, they even know. Oh man. Let's see. So I think that pretty well covers it. I mean, we talked about the siege stuff. We talked about some little Angmarim Sorceress project you're working on.
Yeah, just a little bit about that.
A little bit about that. I think we're obviously never going to address fully concerns about balance, as we talked about. It's just the inherent nature of how the free classes versus the creep classes are built. They're just fundamentally different, and that's just kind of the way it is. There's things that you can do and there's things you can't do. But
Yep. If you turn one dial too far,
yeah,
you can easily swing things the wrong way. So it's very delicate. And again, like, because we don't have the time and the resources to like dedicate to this on the regular, it makes it even more difficult because we have to be very cognitive of of the amount of time that people have. And to be frank and fair, the past couple of years when we've wanted to dedicate that time, something has happened that has made it impossible for either me or somebody else to spend the time that we really wanted to on the Ettenmoors and PvMP, because something of a higher priority just had to be taken care of because of whatever outside influence and impact was, but it just forced us into a situation where we couldn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, what I think I will do at this point, because it is midnight,
Yeah.
it was 2 hours. We did better than last time.
We did. Yeah. We kept it to 2 hours. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, I like to give you that opportunity to chat, and it's always good. I know we have pretty good chats, so yeah, you definitely could talk till 4 a.m.
I could. Yeah.
I'd be here for it too, and I work at 8. I don't care. I'd be here for it. So, because I always catch the flack on the other end. It's like, why is this at 10 o'clock? It's like, because that's the time I have. I'm sorry.
No, we've got I mean, one thing I can say is that we've got I think we've done pretty good with the cadence on the letter to the players this year. I don't know how well it's being received. I mean, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Like, nobody's like hunting me down with pitchforks. So I think the next one is actually due at the beginning of July. So I'll start working on that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So that we have more of an outline on where we're going, what we're doing, what you can expect from the expansion pack this year.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll let you be a night owl and get back to work.
I might, because I got to see exactly what's still broken with her.
Yeah, with that new class, huh?
Yeah, she's a beast.
Yep. Well, as always, man, thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be doing do another one of these. We'll do these like probably like around your letters. Quarterly. We can do that.
Hey, just talk to Cord. I'm down.
Yep. Well, the good news with that is I feel like I've gotten into a pretty trustworthy situation there where it's just like, hey, we want to do this. And this time it was just like, yeah, go ahead. So
some of that's on me too, just so you know.
Oh, all right. Well, I appreciate it.
No, but some of that's on me. Like, they trust me a little more too.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll take advantage of that then. So
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get off of here, and as always, thanks for your time, and we'll do another one soon.
Thank you. All right, take care.
All right, take it easy, man.
Bye.
See ya. All right, everybody. I hope you guys all got some insight there. I appreciate you all hanging out with us. I know when we do these, so I will end up getting some love on the back end of this of I don't ask the difficult questions, or there, just here he is with all the softball questions again. There's a delicate balance with being able to do conversations like this, and if you're just asking a bunch of questions where they're not going to answer, there's no point in even doing it. So doing these as long as I have, this goes back 10 plus years now of doing interviews with the team. We had Quartermaster U, we've had Freelorn, we've had Sapiens, we've had Cord, we've had Severlin, Lansu. Like we've talked to a lot of the team, and we almost had it with the Goblin Hooligan. Yeah, maybe just next time. So I try to to strike a balance with that, just to make sure that we're keeping it kosher, that we can keep doing them. Yeah, and Lansu's back too, which I'm pumped on. I messaged her a couple weeks ago, and yeah, I don't know if she's doing dungeon work again or not, but thanks for posting on Blue Sky. So I'm trying to do both. It's I got to build that into the rhythm. I have a tab in Chrome that just has go live postings, and it's a list of sites that I got to hit. So it's a lot, but I hope that these things get you excited about PvMP if you do participate. If you don't, I hope these are some of the things that maybe kind of tip the scales in favor of giving it a try or coming back out if it's been a long time. I like to spend a lot of time out there. If you've watched a lot of the more recent streams, you know I spend a good amount of time out there now, working on getting to rank 11 now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I always enjoy the time I get with any members of the team, providing insight into what's coming, being able to drop some, fun little nuggets of information here and there. But for right now, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to let this thing cook. For those of you who are wanting to watch this on YouTube afterwards, it's going to take a little while because it's got a 2-hour show that's got to cook from Twitch over to YouTube, and then it'll post. But it'll be there. Glamdring is always popping with PvP. You can go out there. I've been out there at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been out there at noon. There's always stuff going on. So it is definitely a very busy server as far as PvP goes. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. You guys all have a good rest of your night. I will catch you back here on Thursday. And as you guessed it, we'll probably be out in the Ettenmoors. Cool? All right. Have a good night, everybody. Catch you on the next one.